Eckhart, how would you define happiness? Is being happy a realistic goal?
Is it a realistic goal? Well, it's partly a question of semantics, by which I mean what do we mean when we say happy? I personally don't use that term very much, but I know that, for example, Ramana Maharshi said, your true nature is happiness. Happiness is your true nature. So he uses that term in a particular way. I wouldn't use the word that much because for most people, in common usage, happiness is a high. You experience a high and usually a temporary high. I'm so great. Yeah. God. And so it's you cannot be on a permanent high. So if you have a high, you also experience the low. Oh, I thought that was going to be it, but it wasn't it. So the term that I would use is spaciousness, joy, perhaps. It's that which makes the Buddha smile when you look at statues, the good ones of the Buddha. In the bad ones, he looks miserable. But in the good ones, there's just the hint of a smile on his lips. And why is the Buddha smiling? If you approach Buddhism from a purely intellectual viewpoint, in some universities they'll tell you that Buddhism is a life-denying religion because they don't really understand it, they only understand the statements. And Buddha said emptiness is the ultimate answer, which of course is true, but you cannot, if you've never had even a glimpse of emptiness, you will think it's life-denying. So the Buddha has a slight smile because no matter what the Buddha experiences, he experiences everything against the background of emptiness. Another word for which would be spaciousness, or another word for which would be stillness. There's always that stillness, and the Buddha is the stillness. The Buddha is rooted in the stillness, which is, when we use words, we create a duality, but the Buddha is the stillness. So that is really, I think when Ramana Maharshi used the term happiness, and I don't know whether it's even a correct translation from what he used in his native language, that is, I believe, what he pointed to. I personally would not use the term happiness. I don't know about you.
Well, in the Buddha's teaching, there are 4 qualities of consciousness that he calls divine. So the first is loving kindness. The second is joy, which is not happiness. Happiness is a thought, okay? Joy is without thought. The third is compassion. And the fourth is equanimity. And if you really think of these qualities of consciousness, they're actually, at a very primordial level, they're not thought. Okay? None of them is thought. All these are very subtle ways of communion, which means me and the other is one. Okay? So when Eckhart said, happiness is high and lows, yeah, happiness is a melodrama in a way, and joy is not. Joy is essential.